Hello! It is Monday, the 14th of December, 7 p.m. I'm a bit sideways in the thing, haven't I? It is the launch event for A Snowball's Chance in Hell, the book, no, that side, that book there, which comes out in like 5 hours. If you have pre-ordered the book, then it should arrive on your Kindle in the next after 5 hours, not before then. I am JD Kirk, Barry Hutchison. Call me whatever you like. Really, I'm going to move because I'm very squished, so I'm going to hide the picture of the book at the moment. There we are. I'm now filling the screen. I hope you can all hear me okay. Can you hear me? Confirm. Somebody confirm to make sure that I'm not talking into a vacuum. I'm going to stare at the bit, stare at the thing. Yeah, someone said, Jim says, but is that an answer to the question? Can you hear me? Let's hope so. Nobody is responding. Yes, you can. Good. Thank you. You can hear me. Good. Okay. So I thought we would start. What I'm going to do, what I usually do in these things is do a bit of a reading, talk a little bit about the book, answer some questions. Loads of you have sent questions. You can answer questions here as well. But first, I thought I would do a special Advent calendar opening. I don't know if you've been following along on YouTube. The author Alex Smith sent me this Yankee Candle Advent Calendar set because I have an obsession with scented candles. And I've been opening one every day and talking about them. Usually criticizing them, but some of them have been really nice. Others, not so much. But today is the 14th. The 14th is here. So I thought we would do a live opening, the first ever live candle opening, not by anyone, but by me. So door 14. I can't remember what yesterday's was. Green one. Yesterday's the washing up liquid one again. I think it was. Oh, it's a pink one. It's our first ever pink one to mark such a special occasion. This is Snowflake Cookie. I know it. I'm sure of it. Snowflake Cookie. Oh, amazing. That does smell really nice. I'm going to light this. I remember to bring my candle holder over. I'm going to light this and then we will get started properly. If you haven't been following the candle thing, go on YouTube and look for Notes from a Scottish Author, and you will see me, a middle-aged man, sitting alone, sniffing candles for probably a couple of hours worth of content now, if that's your cup of tea. Just get this open. Here we go. It does smell. Ooh, actually smells quite unpleasant. It smells. Well, I don't know. It smells of baked goods of some kind, but not particularly nice baked goods. God, where's my lighter? Well, here it is. I thought I had lost the lighter, which would have been, frankly, a disaster. There we go. Let it wake up. Very important. Let's leave that going for now, and then we'll come back to that later on. That is the candle open. That's day 14. Day 15 will obviously be tomorrow. There's not that long left until Christmas, which is terrifying because I'm not even remotely organized. So anyway, tomorrow, new book. Thank you to everyone who has pre-ordered. There are now about 15,000 people have pre-ordered the book, ready to be delivered to their Kindles in the early hours of tomorrow morning. So let me know what you think when you've read it, unless you hate it, in which case keep your stupid opinions to yourself. Nobody cares. Yeah, Snowball's Chance in Hell. I'll show you it again. Snowballs. Oh, I'm on this side now. Snowball's Chance in Hell. It is the 9th book. Is it the 9th? 10th? 9th. It's the 9th book in the DCI Jack Logan series. I don't want to tell you too much about this one. It's set at Christmas. It's set a few days before Christmas. There is a killer on the loose, unsurprisingly, and I don't really want to tell you too much more than that, really. I kind of want you to discover this one for yourself. I'm not going to tell you too much more about it. I'm going to read a little bit, though. I will read... I'm going to read the whole first chapter, because the whole first chapter is quite short. So I'm going to read that, and And then we'll come back in and we'll start doing some questions and all that stuff. And by then, the smell of the candle should have properly woken up. And then we'll discuss it in more detail. We'll discuss the candle and we'll discuss the book. Okay, here we go. Can't breathe. Here we go. I forgot to put the book on my Kindle. And then not only that, but I forgot to bring the Kindle. So I'm just going to have to read it off the screen. I'm not very organized this time. Last time, if you remember, I recorded a separate reading video in the little cottages where Logan and the rest of the team stay when they were in Fort William. Cottages which my wife and I now own, and you'll soon be available for them to come and rent them. No, you can come and stay in them. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, here we go. Chapter 1, A Snowball's Chance in Hell. Brace yourselves. There was something about it, the cold. Something ancient. Something pure. They said that it was fire that cleansed, but that had never felt quite right. Fire consumed. The cold, on the other hand, stripped you bare, left you exposed, made you face up to all the things you were, and all the things you'd done. Fire could take you in seconds, but the cold took hours to wear you down, whittle you away, breath by agonizing breath. Cold gave you time to think, to reflect, to regret. Cold preserved your pain, froze it in time, each painful second staying on long past its welcome as extremities rotted and internal organs slowed before shutting themselves down one by one. She was a deadly mistress, the cold, but beautiful too. The clinical whites, the translucent blues, the clouds of breath that danced around the suspended flecks of frost that gleamed like tiny diamonds in the air. There was beauty to a flame too, granted, but it was a simple one, obvious. Cold's charms, however, were richer and more complex, less showy, but with far greater depth. Anyone could enjoy a fire. Only a few could truly appreciate the raw, gnawing beauty of the sub-zero. The man in the box was not appreciating it one little bit. He had raged to begin with, slapped his hands against the reinforced door until the frozen metal had ripped the skin from his palms. He'd have howled then, called out in pain, had his lungs not begun to cramp and his chest not begun to tighten. The circle of glass in the door had held fast, despite his efforts to break it. It was smeared with blood now, a crimson slush, with long fingers of frost creeping through it. The man in the box hadn't gone on struggling much longer. He jumped around, hugged himself, and danced on the spot for almost 10 minutes before the rolling cold air had slowed his muscles and his thoughts, and he'd collapsed onto the rubber mat in the centre of the box. There he'd stayed, all whispers and whimpers, arms wrapped around his legs, hands scrunched up into tight balls as the cold nipped and pinched at his extremities and forced its way down into his core, eliciting violent shuddering convulsions that almost knocked him off the mat. The last line of defence by a body in shutdown. The whimpering had stopped 40 minutes later. The shivering too. A few minutes after that, he'd got shakily to his feet, pulled off his thin shirt and tried to jam it into one of the vents through which the icy air came billowing in. He couldn't reach, but then he barely really tried. He barely seemed to remember what he was doing, in fact. And after a few moments spent staring blankly at the intricate flowers of frost blooming along one wall, he fell onto the mat and lay on his back, staring up at the ceiling above him. He would be gone soon. What was left of him would be snuffed out, his heat extinguished by the relentless, all-consuming chill. He would be dead, gone, cleansed by the cold, and he would not be the last. So I shall leave it there. So that is the opening chapter of a Snowballs Chance in Hell. I almost forgot the title there for a second, despite the fact it is on the screen in front of me. Memory is not my strong point. I hope you enjoyed the start of that. There is plenty more where that come from. There's other chapters, many other chapters in the book. It is so yeah, out tomorrow and enjoy that. Anyway, let's crack on with some questions. There are lots of people, 152 people watching at the moment. Oh, hello. Hope you're doing well. What I should say is last time, there were a lot of people started putting spam comments in here with links going, click here to watch this live stream, which you were already watching. Should any links appear, don't click on them because nothing good will come of it, I'm almost sure. Anyway, questions have been sent in. If you have questions, you can ask them here. I'm going to do some of these first, and then I shall answer these questions here. Hope that makes sense. I just saw one question here, though. Carol Dyson, question time now, question mark. Is Hoon in the book? Yes, he is. I shall. It's not huge. He's not in a huge amount, but he is definitely there. Hoon is in this book. A couple of people have asked that. Yeah, Hoon does appear. And Hoon's standalone series is out in June. Hoon in June is my new motto. The first one's out in June. It's called Northwind, and we've made a deal with Audible. Audible are doing the audiobooks, and they're approaching some substantial names in the Scottish acting scene to narrate. I cannot say any more than that. I don't know who it will ultimately be. Angus King will continue to narrate all the DCI Logan books, but Audible is keen to get a big name for the Hoon series. Hopefully, someone who is not averse to swearing, because Hoon, as many of you know, uses some colourful language. Yeah. Here we go. Questions. Heather Allen. Are Jack and his team going to find the new cake shop next time they stop off at JJ's when they're in Fort William? Yeah, like if you don't know this, if you haven't been watching the candle videos, like 20 feet, less than that, 10 feet from my office front door, a cake shop has opened. Oh, in fact, hang on. Get rid of that. Boom. There's some of the cakes that I got the other day. You'll notice there are 5 cakes. There are 4 people in my immediate family, 4 people living in my house. As I've confessed on the candle videos, I buy 5 cakes, 4 to take home, 1 as a sneaky additional cake to eat in my office when no one's looking. And then I bring the 4 home and pretend that I just got 4 cakes. So yeah, this time actually I didn't eat any of those cakes in the end. I had bought 5 the day previously, and I made a substantial dent in those. I was actually, I found out, the first person to fill up the cake shop's loyalty card scheme. I don't know if there's a word that means proud and ashamed simultaneously, but that's how I felt, if there is. But lovely. It's called Wildflower Cakery, it's called. Very nice. Thankfully, it's only open at the moment on Fridays and Saturdays. So otherwise all the weight I'd lost recently, I would have put back on by now. So hide that for now. I've got weirdly looking weirdly red in this. I got a light because it's quite dark in this office. So I have the top lights on. I have a lamp here, and I have another light here, and it just makes me look weird. But at least you can see my face. If that's a good thing, I don't know, but at least you can see it. So yeah, yes, Heather, are they going to find a new cake shop? Yes, they do. I've already written it. I've written most of that book, and there is a small, a short reference to the cake shop. So yeah. Maggie Steele asks, is the current COVID situation going to be incorporated into any future books? It's a really good question. I did think about that. I wasn't sure. And I decided no in the end. I decided that these books exist in an alternate reality where the awfulness of 2020 hasn't happened. I think it'd be interesting to do a COVID murder investigation, a murder during lockdown or something. I think having some sort of crime fiction novel set during a global pandemic could be a really good book. But I kind of don't want to do it in this. I think this is the Logan books feel a bit more like escapism, really. Obviously, it's escapism with murder and child abduction and all that stuff. But I think we've had enough. We've had enough of social distancing and masks and misery and all that stuff. And so, no, it will not be appearing in the series. I made that a conscious decision. So yeah, there we go. Lucinda Frangipan, excellent name. Well done, Lucinda. Hi. It seems that authors have to publish books faster and faster. It used to be one book a year. How do you feel about that? Another excellent question. I've always written really quickly. I mean, as a kids author, over 10 years, I wrote about 150 books thereabouts. And I wrote books faster than publishers could put them out. That's why I've written under loads of different names as a children's author, because part of the reason for that is that publishers don't want you to be in competition with yourself. So if I'd written, 7 or 8 books in a year, publishers wouldn't publish 7 or 8 books in a year by me, but they might publish some under different names. So I have a whole range of pseudonyms I've used for kids' books. And most of that was because I wrote so fast. I write really quickly. And I think I kind of struggled, but one of my series, The Spectre Collectors, for example, aimed at kids aged 9 to 12, and those books came out one a year around Halloween, which is fine, but I wrote them, far, far quicker than that. So they were sitting there for a while doing nothing. And when a kid reads a book, if you've got the first book comes out in, let's say it was 2016, say. If you've got a kid aged 10, 11 that reads that book in 2016, they're not really going to want to wait around a year for the next one to come out. And certainly by the time book 3 comes out in 2018, if they're 12, 13, they're probably going to have grown out of that series. So I think it can hold momentum back in a series if it takes ages to bring them out. If the Logan books weren't being released one every kind of 2 months or so, which is what's happening, I'd be writing them at that pace. So I would have like a backlog of them. And if I was releasing them one a year, one every 6 months or whatever. So no, I enjoy it. I like being able to put books out as quickly as possible. To say, because we're kind of becoming that sort of society now. People that watch, Netflix and stuff, you used to watch a TV program and then wait a week for the next episode to come on. And now they all land at once and you just sit and binge watch them one after the other. So I think that's kind of becoming the way we are as a society, which I'm making no comment on whether that's good or bad. But I think that's what we're doing. So yeah. Estelle O'Sullivan, I absolutely love the humor in your books. Thank you very much, Estelle. What is your favorite TV sitcom, and has this show had an influence in your writing? Oh, I love sitcoms. I love comedy in general. I love live stand-up comedy, comedy movies. But yeah, sitcoms. I grew up watching sitcoms. I loved mostly all British sitcoms. I love Blackadder and Only Fools and Horses, especially the early stuff. Dad's Army, going back to that. Red Dwarf, which had a big influence on my Space Team books. Loved that. In kind of recent years, my favorite sitcom is Parks and Recreation, which is an American sitcom, which is fantastic. I have a little Ron Swanson on my desk. So I think Parks and Recreation is probably my favorite sitcom of all time. We've just done a rewatch of that, introduced my daughter to it, and she loved it as well. So I think Parks and Recreation is probably my favorite TV sitcom. That hasn't really influenced my writing because I came to it after I was writing professionally, but definitely all the sitcoms I used to watch both as a kid and as a teenager, and then kind of in earlier adult life. From everything. It was a real mishmash of everything from Bread by Carla Lane and Bottom, Rick Mayall, Adrian Edmondson, and everything really. Fawlty Towers, all that stuff. So all the kind of classics, and then so all sitcoms have had an influence. I think I kind of look at the Logan series as kind of like, obviously it's a police procedural, but it's really a kind of comedy drama like that happens to be about the police. It's kind of a soap. It's like a funny soap opera. And the humor is not the kind of the main driving part of it. The humor always comes from the characters for me, and the situations that some of them find themselves in, particularly poor DC Niche, who's really ended up as being the butt of so many jokes. And that continues in the other books. So but I think they can all kind of laugh at themselves, and I think that relationship, that kind of banter that comes from the relationship, it's quite true to life in terms of what the emergency services, how they deal with the situations they find themselves in. So yeah, can't remember what that question was, by the way, but I thought if I talked long enough, nobody would realize. So I probably shouldn't have said it now. I can't really answer this, Christine, because it's a bit of a spoiler. If you could bring back one of the characters no longer in the series, would you? And if so, who? I probably wouldn't. I don't think I would. I think I'm kind of, I think anyone that I got rid of for good reason, probably. Not because they were a bad character, but because it was necessary to get rid of them for some plot reason or other. So I don't think I would bring any back as such. But there is more I could say on that, but it would give you a spoiler. In fact, it would give you a spoiler for a later book that's not out yet, which I haven't written yet, but that I have an idea for. So no, let's just say I wouldn't do that. There we go. Tracy Jardine asks, is anything proper going to come of Jack and Shona? Oh, Jack and Shona. It's the love story for the ages. Yeah, probably. We'll have to wait and see, wouldn't you? But it's high time it bloody did, to put it that way. Been going on for a long time, this now. So yeah, just watch this space, Tracy. Louise Lucas Saunders. Any chance there could be a murder on the Isle of Skye? I mean, I live on Skye. Are you trying to get me to assassinate someone on Skye? Is that what's happening here? It'd be great to get a visit from the team. We have loads of places for hiding bodies. I'm slightly concerned about you, Louise Lucas Saunders. That message seems loaded with hidden meaning. Any chance it could be a murder on the Isle of Skye? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I really want to use Skye as a location, but it's almost, it was going to appear a little bit in Snowball's Chance in Hell, but I felt what I came up with for it didn't do it justice because it's such an amazing place. And like you say, there's plenty of places for hiding bodies. So I kind of want to make sure that I do it justice. So I know what's going to happen there, and I now know when it's going to happen. So yes, there will be big adventure on the Isle of Skye. That's all I can say at the moment. Jane Wynn, have you been approached by Yankee Candle to be their Scottish/UK ambassador yet? Funnily enough, no. That has not happened. Possibly because I have called them bastards on several occasions now. Possibly because I have described their candles as smelling like fairy liquid and pickled onions. Both of which are very pleasant smells, I should say. That's not a criticism. But funnily enough, no, Yankee Candles have not decided to adopt me as their brand ambassador, which is a shame. Yankee Candles, if you're watching, I'd be up for it. Jane also says, a serious question now. How do you decide the titles? They're always succinct. Do you get halfway through and it becomes obvious, or does hard thought come into it? It's a bit of both, really. Sometimes the title will come up with first. But that's what happened with Snowball's Chance in Hell. I thought, that's a good title. what could that be about? And I did it that way. For the next one that comes up, I struggled with the title quite a lot. That's book 10, and I'll show the cover of that shortly. I struggled with that quite a bit. And I had a few different titles. And I've actually settled on the title that I have settled on. But there's a reason I kind of succinct, is that the first book, the title is quite big, A Litter of Bones. And you want to kind of keep that brand going, so the covers are fairly recognizable as all being by the same author. So in order to do that, I had to keep the text quite big. And if I have long titles, they just don't fit. So it's a practicality thing as much as anything else. So yeah, when will the paperback be available, please? Merry Christmas. Thank you, Roz. Merry Christmas to you too when it comes. Paperbacks for Snowballs, Chance in Hell. They should have been here by now. They will be arriving any day now. The Highland Bookshop in Fort William has been doing pre-orders of them. Brexit is apparently the problem. The printer is in mainland Europe, and there have been some delays and all that stuff. And partly that's because of additional paperwork and stuff that had to be done for Brexit, even though we haven't, or have we left now? I don't know. I have no idea what's happening with it. But yeah, blame Brexit. That's why the paperbacks aren't here. However, they will be available any day now, so won't be long. Nan Matheson, Ian Rankin has kept Rebus going for years. Do you think you will do the same with Jack Logan, or do you think he will end at some point? We all end eventually, Nan. No plans to stop him at the moment. I'm really enjoying writing them. I wasn't sure I would when I first started. I thought I want to write this one police procedural story. And I've kind of fallen in love with the characters, not in a mucky way, but in a purely platonic kind of way. And I really enjoy writing them, and I really enjoy writing their relationship and that dynamic that goes on between them. So no plans to ditch them at any point in the near future. However, there will be a little while when they alternate between Hoon books. There are 3 of those, and Logan. And I do plan also writing Space Team and my Sidekicks superhero series for next year as well. So it's going to be a busy year, let me tell you. Margaret Laidlaw, your first 4 books are out in audiobook. Do you have a timeline for the others to go on? Yes, I do. They're all out already. Well, most of them are. I think up to book 8. Yeah, book 8. Up to book 8 is available now, Margaret. And book 9 should be out any day now. It's all been approved by Audible. We're just waiting for them to do whatever it is they do behind the scenes, which seems to take forever. And then it will be live. So basically anytime now. And book 10, no, I've got all that wrong. First 7 are out. Book 8 is one we're waiting on. Book 9 is the one that comes out tomorrow on ebook, isn't it? Oh, God, I've lost track. Yeah, book 9. That's been recorded. Just waiting for Audible to approve that one. So book 8, A Death Most Monumental, whatever book that is, that will arrive any day now. Book 9, Snowball's Chance in Hell, will probably be out early January, I think, because Audible is taking such a long time. So yeah, so that's all happening. So right, let's see some questions that you guys have asked in the comments here. Let's go. I'll scroll back up to try and get some in. Okay, no, that's a bit showing. Will Jack Logan ever find some romance? Well, it's getting there, isn't it? It's making slow progress, but he's getting there. So Nigel Richardson, what made you choose the name Logan? I'd been reading a lot of Wolverine comics at that point. I'm actually annoyed. I'm disappointed I chose the name Logan, actually, because I was reading a lot of Wolverine. He's called Logan. And I thought, right, cool, I'm going to use that. It's a solid name. And then, of course, I remembered after I had published the first one that Stuart McBride's detective is called Logan McRae. Is that right? Logan something. I made that up. I've only read one Stuart McBride book. It was quite a long time ago, and he wasn't in it. But yeah, he's called Logan, which is annoying that there are now 2 of them. So yeah, I would probably have gone with something else had that occurred to me. Yeah, but Wolverine was to blame, really. Where do you get your ideas for the Logan books? I just imagine how I could murder people. I think about the victims, first of all. I think about who would be an interesting person to die. Because obviously most murders are tragic, obviously, but boring. Most murders are wives murdering husbands, husbands murdering wives, people getting in fights and all that stuff, and most drug related or whatever it is. Those are most murders, and they're all horrible, tragic things, but they don't necessarily make that interesting crime fiction. So it's thinking of what would make an interesting victim and an interesting motive, and sort of working back from there. That's how most of them happen anyway. Book 6 was slightly different. That was kind of set up back in book 1. And so book 6 was really just paying that off. Yeah. Heather Allen, I'm so glad you write quickly. I've lost interest in other series when I'm waiting 1, 2, 3 years for the next installment. I'm a classic binger. Yeah, I agree with that. I forget what's happened, and so I have no inclination to go back. I forget what's happened in my own books that I've published 2 months ago. So if I read someone else's book and then a year goes by, I will have no clue about anything that's happened or any recollection of having read the book in the first place. Alison D's just said Golden Girls, ? Don't quite know what you're getting at there. Obviously, the Golden Girls are fabulous. I have Golden Girls pop figures up there as well. But sorry, was that about the sitcom? God, yes, Golden Girls was a massive influence. Loved the Golden Girls. So yeah, and Black Book, someone else mentioned. Yeah, Father Ted, can't forget about all that. So there we go. John Thurmond, patiently waiting for a niche / Deadman crossover. Dan Deadman, you can probably see it over there somewhere. It's the bottom of a book cover. It was made into a big canvas. Dial D for Deadman. Dan Deadman is a science fiction detective. He's like an undead sci-fi detective who lives in space. And he, I have a plan. I have a cover even for a crossover between, just a short crossover between Dan Deadman and Logan's crew, which I will be writing very, very soon. And that'll be available for free on my mailing list. So if you go to jdkirk.com, you can sign up to the newsletter there and you will get that free when it's ready. I don't want to, there's 2 questions coming up, which I don't want to, one from Eileen Brown, which minor's not really a spoiler, but it's about Jack's relationship with his daughter. So I shall leave that and just say you will find out. Eliz Barber, be great if you could have some killings in Ayrshire. Yeah, but it doesn't cover there. They've got their own MIT down in Central Belt. That would cover that. The Major Investigations Team based in Inverness covers kind of north of Scotland and a bit out towards Aberdeen and stuff. So, but there's no saying that there wouldn't be a little crossover down that way. So yeah. Julie Nelson, sorry I'm late. Trying to get home with my McDonald's and the police have closed off the surrounding roads. So sitting in my car, eating, watching you. God, that's exciting, isn't it? What's happening there, I wonder? We've got a KFC opening in a couple of days. Our first ever KFC. It's exciting times in Fort William. Cake shops and KFC, not good for the diet, but who knows? Where are we now? Let's see. In other series I read, it seems popular to add a prequel. Is this something you've considered? No, kind of. I've considered it, but I've kind of ruled it out. I was going to do a prequel with Mr. Whisper, with the original arrest, where Mr. Whisper ends up getting caught. That's all. There's no spoilers there, but that's all established in the first chapter or so of book 1, first couple of chapters. Mr. Whisper, child murderer, Jack Logan catches him, basically. And I thought I could write that as a little prequel. But I kind of like it being, I like there being an air of mystery about it. And some of that gets revealed in book 6, everything that happened, but not all, but just little hints about it. And I kind of prefer it like that. I think keeping that mystery is more important to me than going, look, here's another book. So probably not. And also, what works for me about the series is that dynamic between Jack and the other characters. And I mean, we could have Ben. Ben was around at that point, D.I. Ford, but that would be it. So we'd see those two a bit younger, but there'd be no Niche or Hamza or Sinead or any of that lot. So yeah, I don't think I would really. Really good to see people supporting the Highland Bookshop in Fort William. They've been huge supporters of mine. They sell dozens upon dozens of signed paperbacks every week, it seems. And they've had the exclusive pre-order for Snowball's Chance in Hell. And as I say, those books will be arriving very, very soon, just as soon as they arrive, I suppose. Let's see. Mary Ellen has just written Space Team, all block caps. Good on you, Mary Ellen. Big Space Team fan. Where are we now? Alison D. Hoon is so complicated. Can't wait for June. I'm glad you think that, Alison. When I look back at Hoon in the early books, he is kind of deliberately a bit two-dimensional. He's just an angry boss, which is a kind of trope of detective fiction. I mean, you think of like Starsky and Hutch's boss and Cagney and Lacey's boss. They were always angry, and it was always that thing, just give me 24 hours, chief. They were always angry bosses. And so Hoon was kind of a Scottish version of that, just like a really, really violently angry boss with lots of spouting lots of obscenities, really. And then when I realized that I wanted to do more with him, he kind of became a bit more nuanced. And I think as the series progresses, it becomes possible to empathize with him, which I don't think it is earlier on. Sam asked Rob, Shona POV books would be cool. She's hilarious. Thoughts? That's Shona Maguire, the pathologist. It'd be really interesting. I think I would need to know a lot more about kind of autopsies and all that stuff, and postmortems and bodies, which would require quite a lot of research. There's a lot when you read the and this will probably spoil all these scenes from now on, but when you read any of the post-mortem scenes, there's a lot of hand waving goes on there. There's a lot of, oh yeah, I'll put the details in the report, which basically means I don't have a clue what any of this means, and I have reached the limit of my research capabilities. So anytime you see I'll pop it in the report means, yeah, I've run out of knowledge. So yeah, there we go. But yeah, I'd love to do something more with her. I just think I would need to do a lot more research than I'm perhaps capable of, or indeed interested in doing, because I'm naturally a lazy person. Where are we now? Lisa is checking Audible twice daily for book 8. Oh, Lisa. Yeah, it should be here. It should have been here ages ago. Just taking a long, long time. But yeah, so anytime now. Rachel Marsh, you asked what our favorite one-liners were. What is yours? I have no idea. I don't remember them. I don't. The one kind of line I remember, because it wasn't actually me. Someone had posted in the DCI Logan fan group saying, "Give me your favorite lines from the series," and I didn't remember most of them. Almost none, I would say. The one I think I remember is from book 1, and it was, "How did he get in the Polar Sun? Was there a raffle?" To one of the uniform officers, and that's basically the only line I kind of really remember. So I don't know. Pat is asking, is this book set at Christmas time? It is indeed. I will say as well, there are a couple of points in the series so far that I have, and obviously I'm a butch, very masculine man, as you can probably tell by looking at me. But there were a couple of points in the series when I burst into tears while writing. One of those was towards the end of book 6, A Whisper of Sorrows. If you've read it, you will probably know the moment. And one of those was in book 9, towards the end of book 9, and that's all I will tell you on that. Eileen Brown, would you consider using your readers' names in your books? Yes, absolutely. I've quite a lot of characters in the books. Some of the minor characters are named after different people that I know. Yeah, and the Sidekicks book, as I think I've mentioned before, the Sidekicks Initiative is a superhero book, and in the kind of the back of that, I kill off about 500, 600 readers who'd kind of volunteered to be killed. I'd asked on Facebook for a couple of readers who were interested in dying horribly in the book, and hundreds upon hundreds had replied. So I thought, well, I can't obviously fit you all in because that would take up most of the book. So at the back, there's a big list of all their names and how they died horribly. So yeah, I'm always up for killing off my readers. Fictionally, of course, unless they leave negative reviews, in which case I also do it in real life. Where do you get Hoon's classic put-downs from? Just my mind. I don't have anywhere to go. I wish there was a big book of Scottish obscenities I could turn to, but there isn't, unfortunately. So I just make them up. Some of them come very, very naturally. Some of them, when I'm writing, and I found this happening more and more as I get older. When I'm writing, I kind of find myself speaking out loud. I find myself saying the dialogue out loud and pulling facial expressions that correspond with whatever's going on at that point. It was my wife pointed out to me maybe a year or so back that if I was writing something angry, I would, and if I'm writing something happy, I will. And so I kind of get quite into the characters now, especially now that I know the characters so well. So with Hoon, it's a bit like being an actor, I suppose. I kind of put myself into that role, and I imagine how he feels about whoever he's talking to, or how he feels about pretty much everyone in the world, and I kind of channel that and let it come out. I've said before that most of my writing muscles are all in my fingers and not in my head. Quite often I read along with what's happening on screen, and I'm surprised by what has appeared because my fingers have come up with it by themselves. So yeah, there we go. Julie D. Kirk, JD Kirk. Hello. At what point in writing do you have the ending sorted? I know the ending generally before I start writing the book. Not necessarily with the science fiction stuff. Mostly that's made up as I go along. The crime fiction, though, I have to know who done it. So that's reasonably planned out. I know who was responsible. It's almost like you write the story of the murder and never show it to anyone. So in my head, I know who murdered who and why they did it and what clues they've left and how they've messed up and all that stuff. So if I know that bit, I kind of know the ending because I kind of know what's going to happen or what has to happen for that all to come out. There are a few exceptions in A Death Most Monumental. There were some things I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting the phrase "kiss Glasgow," which is one of the other lines I remember actually, which is something Logan says at the end, and I won't spoil it any more than that. But that's none of that I saw coming. None of that confrontation I saw coming the way it played out. But yeah, there we go. Any chance of a Netflix deal? Susie Gray asks. If you're offering, Susie, I'll be up for that. TV stuff might happen. We don't. It's really early days. It's really hard to say if TV stuff is going to happen. I have had some really positive news about a film script that I wrote. I co-wrote this one with a friend of mine who's a director, and it's a horror set on the shores of Loch Ness. The Loch Ness monster is not the monster, it's not the villain. But but it's set there, so it's quite a kind of psychological horror thing with some supernatural elements. I've had some really, really good news about that. I can't say too much more about, but hopefully I can tell you some more about that in January time. But it's looking very, very promising, looking really hopeful. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about that. But in terms of TV for Logan, who knows? Again, just watch this space and we'll see what happens. TV tends to fall apart a lot. I had a sitcom with BBC Scotland, BBC Studios, sorry, BBC Studios, not BBC Scotland, BBC Studios, that was looking likely to be produced for Channel 4, and unfortunately that all fell apart during lockdown, and so all these things happen. Things look promising and then they collapse, and then but it's the film thing looking very promising. I mean, I have a cinema in Fort William, as Christine Harris had just pointed out, owned by the same guy that owns the bookshop, the Highland Bookshop. It's crazy because I've desperately wanted a cinema in Fort William for years and years, and then just before it's due to open, a global pandemic shuts everything down and threatens to bring the cinema industry to its knees. So that's unfortunate, but really hoping that does well. And yeah, be good if the film does go ahead as it's looking likely. That have a nice little premiere thing in there would be good. Warren Whitley, could you kill off a tourist? Real, like, fiction-wise, because there's plenty of tourists in real life I'd happily kill off. Obviously not the ones who will come and stay in our holiday cottages, because I love them. I never kill those guys. But could you kill off a tourist? Maybe next time. Oh, this is you putting yourself forward, Warren. Maybe next time I'm in Fort William. Only fictionally, of course. Yeah, I think there are some. Have tourists died? I can't remember. I think tourists probably have died. And there will be tourist-based death in book 10, which is out in Feb. No, that's a lie. In book 11, which is out in May, I think. Something like that, yeah. Tourists will die. Mark my words, Warren Whitley. Tourists will die, and they shall die horribly. Do you know a real person that swears as well as Hoon does? I've probably met many. There's quite a few people in Scotland who use swearing as a form of punctuation. I think Billy Connolly might have mentioned that, but I've met many of them. And yeah, it is just, it's like a comma. They swear. So quite a lot of them, but not perhaps as creatively as Hoon. I think he makes a bit of an art form of it, because it'd be very easy just to have him just swear and say the same few swear words over and over again, and it would get very repetitive. So it's not really just swearing; it's just insults and that sort of thing. So yeah, I don't know anyone that swears as creatively as Hoon does, apart from possibly myself, but only when I'm writing him. A lot of people are saying they swear as badly as Hoon, though, when driving. So yeah, driving seems to be the key. A few people have that issue. Any new sergeants or constables joining Logan's team? Not at the moment. We had a couple of new characters in one of the books recently. I can't remember which one. Dave Davidson and Detective Superintendent Mitchell. So there were a couple of new characters. I don't like adding new characters particularly in every book, but there will be new people coming up, and there are people pop up obviously in different books, but the team is pretty established as they are at the moment, so I don't want to disrupt that too much quite yet, but it will happen. Valerie Hatton, where do you get your information about the way police operate? I don't just make it up. Guesswork, really. I think the way the police operate is probably very dull, from what I know from police officers. and nobody really wants to read about actual police procedure, so I just kind of make most of it up. Hope that doesn't disappoint you too much. So yeah, there we go. Where are we? Do you keep an index system where your characters so you do not forget? That's a very good question, because I forget pretty much everything, as I mentioned. I have a really terrible memory. Part of that, I think, is because I have I don't know if it's called if it's a class, a condition, but I have a thing called aphantasia, which I might have mentioned before. When I don't see pictures in my head, I think exclusively in words and not in pictures. So I struggle to remember what people look like. That's why there's kind of key things about a lot of them. So Logan is big and imposing. Tyler, it's his hair. So there's a lot of the characters have key features that makes it easy for me to remember them or to refer back to. But in terms of their characteristics, I can remember. Their histories and all that stuff, struggle with that. My editor, she's recently started putting together like kind of a series Bible where she records everything that happens in the books, who all the characters are, all the locations that are used, all that stuff. So yeah, that's going to prove really handy, I think, going forward. So yeah. Linda De Los Santos, again, excellent name, well done. Would you ever kill off a fellow author in a book? I noticed one of your fellow Scottish authors killed off Barry Hutchison in a slurry pit of cow manure. He wasn't actually a Scottish author. That was David J. Gatward, another great author. He's got a couple of books out now. You really should read those, the DCI Grimm series. I've actually killed him off numerous times in different books. I like to kill off people that I know, or do other terrible things to them. Like the kind of one of the main suspects in book 10 is named after a good friend of mine, and he's a pathetic character in this book. He's really cuts a pathetic, pitiful figure, and I just thought it'd be funny to name him after a friend of mine. So I like doing that. In fact, Carol has said, did you know David J. Gatward used your name in one of his Harry Grimm books? Yes, I did. And it was a form of revenge for the many, many times that I have killed off some variation of Dave Gatward over the years. And someone says, love the Grimm books. Yes, they're very, very good. So do check those out if you haven't done already. But obviously, my new book's coming tomorrow. I'll probably read that first. Nothing against Dave Gatward. I'd probably just read mine first. Catherine McGranera, is that your name? After the last book, can you still look at or pass the Glenfinnan Viaduct with a straight face? Because I can't. Hashtag DC Niche. I live fairly close to that. I haven't been past it since then, actually. So I don't know. I'm sure I will. When I do pass it, I will think fondly of that scene and poor DC Niche. So I think we're kind of, how long we've been going for a while now. We're almost 8 o'clock. Stevie Gray, are you an actor? You could star as Logan in your own film? Mind you, you'd have to learn the script. Absolutely not an actor. Well, saying that, I used to act a little bit. I was in a couple of Terry Pratchett plays. I played Corporal Carrot in Guards and Captain Carrot in Men at Arms. And to do that, I had to dye my hair bright orange, which meant, because my hair is very dark naturally, so I had to bleach it completely and then put on this iron brew orange kind of hair dye that was like that color. And I was Carrot from Terry Pratchett books, and Terry Pratchett himself came to the opening night of the first one, which was terrifying, but that was good. It was good fun. But I can't act, so that's a downside. I would like someone who can actually act to play Logan, to play all the characters, in fact. And Joanne Borrell, never heard of this. I think you're talking about aphantasia. Learn a new thing every day. Yes, it's quite really interesting, actually. I only found out about it kind of last year or so when I was having a conversation with my son about mental images, but picturing things in your head. And I'd assumed that was just like a thing people said. I didn't think they could actually picture things, and he can picture things really clearly. He can picture, if you say picture a green star, he'll be able to picture that as if it's floating in the air in front of him, which seems like a superpower to me, because I can't do that. I can't picture it. If someone says picture a green star, the words green and star and then space and then, triangles and points and all these different things, words connected to the concept of a green star come into my head, but I don't see anything. And I'm possibly going to be involved in a study on it next year where I could put in an MRI machine and have to imagine things, imagine sights and smells and sounds, and they will see what happens to the brain of someone with aphantasia when that happens. So that should be really interesting. Well, probably not at the time. I'll just be lying in a tube, which is never interesting. But the whole concept of it, I find fascinating. This idea that you can see things by imagining them seems insane to me. But I think it's also why I write really quickly, because I think in words, so I don't have to think in a picture and then translate that into words. The words come first. I think that's why my fingers do all the typing, and my brain just kind of takes a back seat and just watches from the sidelines. But I'm afraid we are coming to a close. It is almost 8 o'clock, which means there are only 4 hours now until the book is released on Kindle, and hopefully the book should all arrive with Highland Bookshop tomorrow and can start getting sent out, Brexit willing. So don't blame me, and don't blame the Highland Bookshop. Blame our political failings of some sort, or cross-channel transport. I don't know. Don't blame me, all right? That's not my fault. I mean, I could have put the order in earlier, certainly, but it's still not, my fault, strictly speaking. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the book when it arrives. I look forward to hearing what you think. And if you haven't been following along with my candle adventure, do tune back in tomorrow on YouTube, and you will be able to see me opening door number 15. Who knows what it holds? In fact, before I go, I'm going to quickly Google what's in, because I always Google what's in the candles. So what's this one called? Snowflake Cookie. Here we go. Yankee Candle Snowflake Cookie. There it is. It just smells a bit sickly. It smells a bit like white chocolate. Like melting white chocolate. I don't like white chocolate. Snowflake Cookie. Here's what's in that. A new Christmas tradition that is sure to charm. Oh, no, I don't want your 10% discount. Perfectly pretty holiday cookies. Deliciously decorated with sugary pink icing. Fragrance notes. This is almost always the biggest load of old bullshit you've ever heard. Fluffy marshmallow. Actually, I can't get marshmallow from that. Whipped vanilla icing. I mean, why whipped? Does that whipped icing smell different than normal icing? No. Warm cinnamon. No, there was a cinnamon one last week. Best thing I've ever smelled in my life. Cinnamon stick. Genuinely the best smell I've ever smelled. Nutmeg. No. Sweet buttercream. That's just whipped vanilla icing again, isn't it? Not getting it. Sugar cookie. So the top note is fluffy marshmallow, whipped vanilla icing. I am getting a bit of marshmallow, a bit of white chocolate. That's what I'm getting. But hey, it's better than pickled onions, one of the previous ones. So that's Snowflake Cookie. That's day 14, and that is the haphazard, disorganized launch event for a Snowballs Chance in Hell. What I did say was I was going to show you the cover for the next one. So yeah, you can pre-order it now. It's up on Amazon now, and here it is. It is called Ahead of the Game. It is set at the Well of Seven Heads, not all of it, but a body is discovered at the Well of Seven Heads near Invergary, not far from here. And I was quite proud of that little tagline: 1 body, 7 heads, 0 clues. And yeah, so that comes out in February. Woo! Available to pre-order now on ebook and soon as a paperback. So yeah, there we go. Thanks for coming along. Lovely to have you. I'll pop up the cover for that one again. And yeah, so enjoy the book, and I will speak to you all again soon. Goodbye for now. Here's some cakes to send you on your way.